Time now to speak with, as we normally do at this time of the week, Dr. John Braccio, the good doc, for our Psychologically Speaking segment. Dr. Braccio, of course, with Regional Psychological Services of East Lansing. Going to talk a little bit about resentment and the negative impact of resentment. And Dr. Braccio on the other end of our line. Good morning, Doc. How are you?
Well, I'm very good, and I want to congratulate you on your daughter starting kindergarten. That sounds really exciting.
Thank you so much. Yes, and she is she's getting ready as we speak. So she'll be going in about an hour from now. So a big transition, but yeah, we think she'll do great. Thank you so much for the well wishes there. Yeah, first day of school for her.
Well, good. So listen, you're going to talk today about resentment. And resentment, it's a psychological reaction when one feels mistreated. One can also have resentment at themselves if they believe opportunities were ignored or thrown away. And resentment doesn't have one cause. Disappointment and frustration are really common feelings we all have, Rich, as we experience to some degree in our lives. But when the feelings are some combination of bitterness, anger, disappointment, envy, and feeling used, then resentment really can set in and can last for a lifetime if not resolved. Typical triggers for resentment would include passed over for a job or opportunity, not listened to, taken advantage of, put down, rejected, ridiculed, mocked, ignored, missing or ignoring an opportunity that we could have had and didn't have, not allowed to do something in life, envious of others, relationship betrayal or rejection. There are just so many things that we can have resentment for. And it's really like an emotional corrosive acid. It eats away at the very soul of the person. And if aimed at a person, it punishes you, while the object of the resentment is often leading a happy life and really not even aware of the resentment or could care less. So it really is just a very corrosive, difficult thing. Now, I can mention ways to fight this if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, well, ways to really fight this, you have to be willing to forgive and let go of things, okay? You have to honestly determine if your resentment's realistic and fair. You have to, if it's with yourself, some resentment for something you didn't do and you're really mad at yourself or punishing yourself over years. You have to have self-forgiveness, compassion for errors or mistakes. You need to replace negative thoughts with positive thoughts. It's called cognitive restructuring. Difficult to do, but it really is an important thing to do. Recognizing only you can change your own views of resentment and accepting you really can't change the past, except you can't often change the outlooks of behavior or behaviors of others in the past or present. You have to stay away from toxic people. And above all, forget what you can and let go of what you feel you can't. And I believe the Serenity Prayer is always a good read when resentment builds up and someone needs to let it go for their own mental and physical health. And this quote, I think, is very helpful from it. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. And I think it really is key, Rich. In life, there's really a lot of resentment, whatever it might be. You know, we're in a world where there's so much competition, so much things that can make us angry. We're kind of a split country politically, but it's really a time that we need to take a time out and just sit back and review our life and realize that often resentment, the person punished from it, is ourselves. So we need to really work on tolerance. We need to work on forgiveness. We need to work on just trying to find the good angels in ourselves and not let the bad angels, if you will, of others kind of take control, or even bad angels within ourselves. So it's really a time to just really have some serenity and peace in our lives. Very, very important.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the triggers here for resentment, especially when it comes to a job or opportunity. Yeah, for me personally, when I hear about people being resentful or people resenting other people for said reason. It seems to me what I hear a lot is that reason is for the job, or maybe it's a big career move that maybe that person did not take, maybe for the sake of another person, whether it be a spouse, whether it be a family member. I seem to hear about that, whether it's realistic or whether it's just hypothetically speaking. Is that kind of the I don't know if I'd say the most common trigger, but maybe one of the common triggers for resentment that you hear about, just talking to patients and people in general?
Absolutely, Rich. A lot of people will stay in an environment, will stay in the community because their spouse, but let's say the spouse has a lot of family there, and they're even glad they did that, but they had this opportunity. Let's say you had this job at WABC going to New York, okay? Mm-hmm. And it's something you always wanted to do, live in New York, work for a giant, 50,000 watt, radio station.
Right.
And so, but here you are, the person's very happy in a community like a Lansing or a Grand Rapids or wherever it might be, and they've had a very successful career, but in the back of their mind, there may be some resentment. That was my shot. That was my opportunity. And for some people, it could just be, I wish I had done that, but then I'm glad things have worked. But it's even worse. Let's say you stayed, then there's a divorce or things don't work out. So there you are in mid-career in a community you really would rather not be. And even if you're satisfied to some degree with the work, but you look back at this opportunity, I think there's a lot of that. And not people that maybe want to move to another state or go to a different place, and they don't. Or someone puts a lot of pressure on them, like a parent or a friend or whatever it might be. So I think there's a lot of resentment over career possibilities, choices they didn't take. And I'll give you another one. Someone doesn't take a job because the employer or the boss is saying, hey, I'm really committed, let's work as a team. So a person doesn't take an opportunity, and then that person, let's say they're in government, they go to another position somewhere else. So there's a lot of opportunities to have resentment in life. That's why my view has always been, you take a road, you make decisions, you can't, coulda, shoulda, mighta, oughta. We just deal with the decisions that we have, we move forward, and we do the very best that we can. But if we look at the might-haves, could-haves, should-haves, ought-haves, we'll have a lot of unhappiness. And Rich, I will guarantee you, the world is loaded with persons, even though very successful or quite successful in their life, they're just unhappy about things they didn't do, or when they were passed over, people that are passed over, and they feel they end up working for or with people that are less competent. So then it becomes very important to be realistic. Are you as good as you think you are?
Yeah.
Are you being fair? So humans are very complex persons, as we already know. And as my good friend Harvey Corrosive recently passed, a great friend of mine, many years, professor at MSU, said, John, if we eliminated people, we wouldn't have these conflicts, but it'd be a pretty boring world without people. So we look at things, but we have to take each day as it comes, take the cards we're dealt on that given day, and we try to find some reason in it, some satisfaction, move forward, and have a happy and successful life as much as we can.
Yeah, that's a great point you bring up about someone, what they're dealing with inside. What you see from another person on the surface, that's one thing. But really, what is really on their heart? What is really going through their mind? Definitely could be another story there. As far as fighting resentment goes, you mentioned forgiving and letting go. How big of a challenge can that be, especially if that resentment is related to something, to a decision that was made for the long term, a wrong decision, again, career opportunity, job opportunity. How challenging is it really to let go of that, especially when you're asking yourself, what if?
Well, it can be horrible. I mean, it depends on the person, but many people really just can't let it go or can't seem to let it go. I can tell you from decades of my work, I've worked with countless people that are just bitter very resentful, and very angry. The anger and resentment they're related, but they're different. But that they have this simmering resentment about things that have happened to them that they really can't change. And my point has always been, when you have a set of facts, these are the facts you have today. You might not like them, you might not like the circumstances, but you have to somehow find a way to deal with them and do the very best that you can, because being bitter and angry about something in the past that you can't change now is just going to destroy you emotionally. Mm-hmm. So as difficult as it is, you have to call a timeout. You have to look at what are your resources, what can you do, and you move forward. That's really the only way that you can really get some satisfaction. And I think forgiveness is a big thing, because if you're really angry at a person, it does destroy you. And if you really can't in your own heart forgive, you have to let things go, because there's a lot of people that have been disappointed in love, disappointed in work relationships, disappointed in friendships. They're disappointed in many things. That's part of life. Mm-hmm. And a lot of it we can cause too. Now, we also have to look at ourselves. Are we setting too high of a bar for friendships or expectations of others? So it does sometimes require a timeout, sit down, and really sort out, who am I? Not like you from Ohio, where you can just count on winning a football championship every year, Rich. I mean, the rest of us have to kind of deal with reality. And I think we all have to kind of just assess ourselves and really realistically move forward. But if we do that, we can have happiness. We can have satisfaction. There's one round around, whether one believes in an afterlife or not, it doesn't matter. While we're here, what we have is the now. And our goal has to be to find satisfaction, find meaning, and move forward, and not let resentment be that corrosive acid that comes in and eats away at our well-being. And it can be pretty helpful. A lot of people have a lot of resentment over a lot of different things. And I just try to say, hey, let's take one at a time, move them out, and let's have a little peace of mind, and let's with songs like with this song in my heart, look for the silver lining. Some of these old songs that they're older too, that can kind of help put us in a good mood and move forward and change our outlook on life. Replace negative thoughts with positive thoughts. That's always a good cognitive restructuring way of looking at life.
Absolutely. Dr. John Braccio, Regional Psychological Services in East Lansing, short on time for this segment. Doctor, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Always a pleasure, Rich. Talk to you later, my friend. Bye-bye.
All right. Talk to you later. You are listening to the 1320 WILS Morning Wake Up. More straight ahead right after this, right here on 1320 WILS.